Hello everybody, so today I'm getting ready to start a new project, and that is to put landscape lighting and path lights on the path we use to get from our house down to our pier. And over the years I've tried a few different things here. You can see right now I've got some solar lights. Those don't last, and because we get a lot of shade back here, they usually don't get enough charge to go very long at night. I've tried wired low voltage lighting, and what I found with that stuff is the quality is just not good. Those fixtures don't last. The good stuff, like Kichler makes some pretty nice landscape lights. Those are 150 bucks upwards per light, and I still don't trust that they're gonna last that long. And so I've never been happy with landscape light fixtures back here, but I stumbled on a solution that I think is going to work really good. And this came after noticing that a lot of people are running low voltage lighting systems for off-grid living, and some of the same technology, it's not really technology, but the same solutions they use are going to work here. And specifically my solution is to take a standard higher voltage light fixture. You can see this is just a regular jelly jar fixture. You can get these all over the place between usually $6 and $10. They come in a whole bunch of different colors. They're real easy to work with. And so the solution is to take these regular types of fixtures, use a low voltage LED light bulb, and these are readily available and good quality, and connect it up to a landscape lighting transformer. And this is my prototype that I've had up here for a couple days, and it's worked out great. And so I'm going to go forward and build out the rest of the system now. And we'll start by talking about some of the tree lights. I'm going to have some tree lights, mainly on the stairs going down to the pier. And then I'm also going to put these lights on 4x6 posts. And I think, you know, one of the benefits of doing this is I can control the quality of the fixture and the mounting and the product. I'm not relying on somebody's landscape light fixture to be, you know, good quality and to last. This is, to me, is going to be a much better long-term solution. And you know, I know these fixtures last forever. I've had these in houses, and so I like this solution. But the other benefit is this is extremely low cost. I spent $9 for these fixtures, about $3 for the bulbs. You know, I'm using scrap wood. I've got a lot of screws and springs that we'll talk about in a second. You're talking about, you know, at the most $12 to $15 for this fixture. And then the only other expense is the wiring and your transformer. That's going to be really the same expense even if you were using standard landscape fixtures. So, you know, in this case, the big savings is rigging up your own fixture. I think one other benefit to this type of fixture, you know, if you've seen traditional landscape lighting, it doesn't always really throw a lot of light or a lot of useful light. A lot of times they're designed to be accent lights. This is very functional. This lights up this entire first flight of stairs, you know, because it's a standard bulb shape. It spreads light in all directions, and for my purposes, this is going to work out great and save me some money. So today we'll start talking about these tree mounts, and all this really is a scrap piece of 1x6. The fixture mounts to it. The wire comes out the back. When I route that wire down a tree, I just use zip ties with a screw and leave that screw loose so that it's not going to constrain the tree as it grows. And then up here, when I hang this from the tree, I have just a long decking screw, and I have 2 washers and a spring. And what that's going to do is allow the tree to grow outward. As trees grow, they want to, you know, grow outward in diameter. If you had snugged this screw up tight, the tree's going to try and grow around the fixture. It might pop it off. It might break the screw. But if you put a spring here, you're going to allow some freedom for the tree to grow outward without getting constrained by that screw or that fixture. You could accomplish the same thing with using only a screw if you just came out here, you know, maybe yearly and backed off the screw a little bit. But this is a kind of a hands-off solution that'll let this fixture stay here and behave well with the tree for years to come. And so it doesn't cost very much to do this. In fact, I got all kinds of springs and junk in a drawer, and so that came free to me. And that's a real good way to hang things on trees in general. So the next thing I want to do is put another light on this lower flight of stairs. And here same deal, we got a tree. In fact, it's the same kind of tree. It's black gum, pretty much in the middle of that flight of stairs. So the next thing I'm going to do is rig up a light to go there. And to start talking about that, let's head up to my workshop and I'll show you how I put one of these lights together. Okay, so I'm going to put together one of the fixtures for hanging on a tree. And the first thing is I've got a piece of scrap pressure treated 1x6. I cut this about 8 inches long and drilled 2 holes. Hole at the top will be for the screw that goes into the tree with the spring. This hole down here is to pass the wiring through from the fixture and then down the tree. And I've also chiseled a groove in the back so that wire can run down a little bit recessed. And when you're chiseling anything like this, you know, make a couple score marks with your utility knife, about an 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch deep. And then you just come back with a skinny chisel and kind of hog that out. Whenever you're doing chisel work, make sure your hand is behind the chisel. You know, flip it this way and hold it back here. So many people's tendency is to hold it like this, and bad things can happen. So always hold your workpiece behind your chisel when you're doing that. But this is a real quick and dirty way to, you know, hog out a little bit of a groove for that wire without any trouble. And so the next step is going to be to connect up the wiring. And I've got one of the fixtures here. Again, I got this on Amazon. This was about $9. Pretty standard jelly jar fixture that you can get between $6 and $10 almost anywhere. And I'm gonna mount this up. And by the way, I'll give a link to that in the video description. We're not going to use this. That's for mounting to an electrical box. You really just need to, because this is low voltage wiring, you know, you have a lot more leeway with how you can hook up the wiring and how you can protect it. It doesn't need to be inside an electrical box like higher voltage wiring would be. First thing I'm going to do is get this ground cable out of the way. I'm just going to wrap it around a pencil, make a little bit of a corkscrew with it. That's a nice quick way to get that out of my way without cutting it in case I ever want to use it in the future for something else. And so now I'm going to take some of the landscape wiring and push that through the back of the board. I tend not to pre-cut the length of this until I'm out installing it, because a lot of times there's something you didn't think about, and it would suck if you had already cut this length. So I leave the other end coming off of the spool, and the end I'm working with, I'll just push through here, get it up through, and now I'm gonna solder these guys together. You could crimp them together. Try and use if you do use a butt splice crimp fitting, try and get one that's waterproof that you can heat shrink later. For this though, I'm just gonna solder, and I have some heat shrink tubing with glue inside it. Once you heat that up, it makes a watertight seal, so that's what I'm gonna do. So I'll get that down there before I forget. Get that out of the way. And now we just want to hook up these wires. So let's see. And really the easiest way I've found over the years to solder up stuff like this is just put your wires together and twist them together nice and tight so they kind of hold themselves in place while you're working. I'll do one at a time. Let me get my soldering gun heated up here. Okay, so those guys are ready to go. I think I'll take my glasses off so I can actually see what I'm doing here. One of the joys of middle age. And get this heated up. And really, one of the tricks with soldering is first you want to establish a nice, good thermal contact between the soldering gun or iron and the wire. And once you get a little bit of solder on there to do that, then you just kind of hold it there until you can see it flow down in and sweat down in. That always works the best for me. And if you add solder, you want to be adding it to the wire once you've got that heat working for you. So you can see it flow into the wire connection, which is the whole point of what you're doing. So that one's good too. All right, and so now I'll just put that heat shrink tubing up over that splice right there. And the quickest thing I found, a lot of people, you want to use a heat gun, I just use one of these lighters and hit it real quick and you're good. And you know, instead of, unlike if you're using butt splice crimp fittings or wire nuts or something, when I go later to tuck this in here, this will be a nice, compact, easy way to tuck this in. And I'll leave a little bit of slack also. So let's see, we'll pull this down to about here. That's about where I want. I always like to leave slack inside of any wiring I do, just in case you got to come back in the future and fix something or adjust something. You're not fighting to work in there. And so really the next step is going to be just screwing this down, this fixture down. And let's see, what do I got? I got my screw gun and some screws here. And just one thing to check when you're doing this, yeah, it's low voltage and it's less critical, but I like to peek through my screw holes and make sure there's not a wire there. You could see as I tucked in, I tried to coil it so that the wire is going to be out of the way, but just double check so you're not putting a screw through the wiring you just worked on. Screw started. All right. Do it this way. Okay, there's one. and there's two. So this is pretty much almost ready to go, and you can see how that wire sits nice in that groove back there. The last thing I'll do is set up my spring to mount it to the tree. And again, it's not really a requirement, but it's easier to do this now and give the tree some chance to grow around your fixture without causing trouble down the road. And so I'll just kind of put that up there just to be ready. And that's pretty much it. So there's our fixture. Got the globe here, and I've got the 12 volt LED bulbs. I'll put that on there. And these volts actually they'll run anywhere between 12 and 48 volts, I think is what they're rated for. Yeah, so these have a lot of leeway. And most landscape lighting is going to be 12 volts or 15 volts. Some of them are running higher, but this will really cover all your bases, no matter what type of landscape light system you have, or if you're powering from a off-grid system. They work AC or DC, so these are very versatile little bulbs, and they're also rated for damp locations, so it'll be good outdoors. One of the things I liked about these particular fixtures, this is by Design House, these ones on Amazon, is they only use one set screw to hold the globe in place, or the jelly jar. They've got dimples in the back, and that's nice. Some of these have 3 different screws you're fiddling with, and that'd be a pain to deal with outside. But yeah, that's the basic setup for one of these tree fixtures, and now this is really ready to go get hung on a tree. Okay, so that's kind of the real quick process of mounting the light and then running the wire down the tray. I try and use as few of these wire attachments as possible, and again, leave it loose so the tree has room to grow. And from this point, what I'll do is, I don't know, trying to avoid having to climb down there, but I might have to climb down there, and I'll get that wire down and so that I can tuck it, get it up to the stair framing, and then I'm going to tack it along the stair stringer, working its way up the hill as I get up towards the transformer, and I'll splice it into the next light and show you how I do that. But boy, this is just a real simple process. This is one of the advantages of using low voltage wiring. If you were going to put up a light like this, and you can put lights in trees with high voltage wiring, but you know, to make it safe, to do it to code, you need conduit, you need watertight fittings and boxes, and it gets quite a bit more expensive and quite a bit more complicated to do that safe. And so one of the big advantages of low voltage wiring is you can just do this, you know, run the wire down the tree, tack it on there, and run it up alongside your framing without the need to physically protect the wire like you would if it was a high voltage system. So that's really what I like about taking this approach. So let me get that wire button down, and then we'll head up a little ways and I'll show you how I splice things in. Okay, before I go on to the next step, I wanted to talk about some of my wiring. In a previous video, I talked about setting up a new breaker up here at the top of my stairs, and I talked about using a Fox and Hound device to do that, and that's been done. I hooked up a GFCI outlet to that receptacle, and then I've plugged this landscape light transformer into that, and everything's working good on that end. These landscape light transformers only tend to have one set of output screws on them. Even ones that don't, it's kind of a pain to get under there to add wires. And so what I like to do is run a wire from this to some sort of distribution box, and it could have terminal strips in there, whatever, to join different lighting branches into one place. And to do this today, I'm going to be using a lever lock wire nut. This is a Wago brand. There's a bunch of different brands. I know there's a lot of knockoffs, but Wago, I think, are the original ones. They're made in Germany. These are good for even normal household, you know, higher voltage wiring. They come in a whole bunch of different sizes for joining 2 wires, 3 wires, 4. This is a 5, and I'm going to use this to basically form a distribution setup in here, so that, you know, later on, if I want to come back and add another branch of lighting, I just need to run the wire into my box down there and snap it into one of these spare openings on the Wago wire connector. These are not intended to be in wet locations, which is why I've got these. They'll be mounted in this box that has a gasket on it, and these will be kept out of the weather, but they're just a real convenient way to join a whole bunch of wires. I've actually started using the 2-wire units to replace wire nuts in some of my household wiring projects, just because they're nicer to use and they can accommodate a much different range of wire sizes than standard wire nut. So using these is pretty simple. Basically, you just shove the wires in there and then you flip down the levers. So I'm going to do that for the first set here. And these do require you strip a certain length. It's like 11, oops, got it the wrong way. It's about 11 millimeters, or just over a centimeter, or give or take about a ½ inch. Then you get the wires pushed in there and flick the levers closed. And then I'll do the same thing for the other two. Let's see here. These open. The wires pushed in, and then flip the levers down, and that's it. So that's a real nice, convenient way to do distribution for really any type of wiring, but especially in this case. And I've got 3 empty slots that I can use in the future to add more branches of wiring. So I'll just tuck this in the box, put the cover on, and we'll be ready to go on to the next step. Okay, so I've tacked my wire coming up the stairs, and I'm at the point now where I'm ready to join the wiring for that new light I put in with the wiring for the first light, and then the main line coming in to feed all these lights. And there's a whole bunch of ways you can do this with low voltage wiring. A lot of the connectors you'll see for landscape lighting are meant to just pinch the wire or tap into wires, and I don't like those. Over time, those let moisture in and cause corrosion. So what I've been using more recently is a water resistant ScotchLock connector. ScotchLocks, I think, got a bad name. There's a non-water resistant connector that's used quite a bit for tapping into wiring, which is, I think, where ScotchLocks are most commonly used. You see those used a lot on trailer connections, and they're garbage. They work fine, but they got to be used carefully, and you can't use them anywhere things are going to get wet. This is kind of a different breed of a ScotchLock. It's filled with a gel. I think it's based on like a mineral oil or something, and you basically poke all your wires into here, and then you clamp down, press down on this button, and it's gonna it's got insulation displacement connectors in there. They're gonna basically cut through the wiring insulation, grab onto the conductor. I've used these a lot for trailers, for making repairs on vehicles, even on boats, and then some landscape lighting. And these have been very reliable. I've used these for probably 5 or 6 years now, and they're reliable, so I like them. They're expensive, but it's really worth it, just for the simple fact that you use them and then you're done. You don't have to worry about it. And I'll put a link for these in the video description as well. So basically, though, what I'm going to do is I've grouped together one wire from each leg, and for low voltage 12 volt AC, there's really no concept of polarity, but I myself like to keep track of that, you know, just in case. Maybe I'll do something different in the future. Maybe I'll hook something up that is polarity sensitive. And so I've grouped what I know to be the positives for all these 3 wires are going to come together, and all I got to do now is get them lined up. Let's make sure you guys can see that. Shove them into the connector, and it's important to look at the bottom of the connector so that you're able to see the wires that they've slid in all the way. And then I'm just going to grab some pliers, push down, and you can see I'll come over on this side. You can feel it, you know, bite in good, and you can see some of that goop squirt out, and generally that's how you know you've done a good job with these connectors. And so now I've got the other three. Let's see if I can do this a little bit more neatly so I'm not braiding things here. Okay. I'll grab another connector and feed these guys into it. And again, look from the bottom so you're sure you're pushing the wires all the way in. And then clamp down on those guys, let the goop squirt out. That's a lot of goop. And just come around and check it. Make sure it's down nice and even. Check this other one too. And we're good. So we've got really nice water resistant connections here for these wires. And what I'll do is I don't know anything about the weather rating, if these are UV resistant or not. So I always try and tuck these out of the sunlight. And what I'm going to end up doing here is I'll push these wires up underneath this stair stringer, and I'll just use one of those zip ties with a screw and just kind of bundle these on the other side of this board up underneath, and that way they'll be out of most of the weather and sun, and that'll help their longevity. So that's pretty much it today. At this point, I'm just going to wait for nighttime to come and test out and see how much light that new lamp throws, and I'll do video of that, and that'll cap things off for this first part. I've left slack in the wiring, both on the landing in the middle and down near that second light I just put in case I want to add more later. I think I might want to put one down at the very bottom where the pier meets up with the stairs. I'm not sure about that yet. All depends on how much light we throw with this new light. But that's it for today. The next video I'm going to do probably in the next day or two, I'll be putting in some lights back up on land in 4x6 posts, and that's a little bit different approach, but more or less the same, but we'll get into that next time. As usual, thanks for watching. All right, here we are checking out the new lights. I'm down on the pier now looking up, and we'll make our way up the stairs. First impression is that they're really just perfect. I might want another light down here at the bottom, but in terms of lighting the stairs, I mean, that's just an ideal amount of light. It's not too much, but really you can see the stairs real nice. Coming up this first flight. And then our landing, I think I might want a light right at the landing, but we've got our top light lighting up the second flight of stairs, and it's really working out good.